Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Table Talk. I'm your host, Jake Combs, and tonight we are going to be taking an advanced look at Necromunda Hive War. Now, just for a little disclaimer, this was provided to us by Games Workshop for the purpose of reviewing and sharing with all of you a bit early. It is currently on pre-order as of today, so we're going to go ahead and get this thing opened up. Now, I will mention that next week's episode, we also received advanced copies from them of the Soulblight Gravelord's Tome, as well as the new Blood Knight models. But we're going to hold off on doing those until next week, because we're also going to pick up a couple of the new releases that Saturday as well, and we're going to unbox them all together and basically have an undead themed episode. Also with that, we will be taking a look at the new episode of White Dwarf, which also arrived today, also provided by Games Workshop. So, Hive War. Now, this is a new starter box. It contains House Delac and House Escher models, which the original of this edition involved House Escher as well, but also House Goliath. Now, personally, I would have hoped for two different gangs, but if there was going to be a duplicate of one that I've already owned, the Eschers would be the one for me to have duplicates of, because Eschers have always been my go-to with Necromunda. Whether we're talking video games or we're talking tabletop, when Necromunda first came out back in the 90s, it was the Eschers that I played. I mean, I had gangs for pretty much everybody, but it was the Eschers that I was really all about. Something about strong, badass chicks is definitely my cup of tea. So we're gonna go ahead and open up Hive War. Now, I really like the box art. Definitely kind of gives you a feel for both factions. I mean, the Eschers are, a little scantily clad for the most part, at least in the artwork anyway. That's kind of how they are in the video games. It's been a little bit since I've actually looked at the models, but for the most part, other than seeing their belly button and their lower abdomen, they're mostly fully clothed, unless risque, I would say, compared to the artwork. So now, one thing I don't know about Hive War is I don't know if this is a new edition rulebook. I don't think it is. It might have some of the updates from the FAQ, but otherwise, my understanding is that it is basically the same rulebook. So this is not a new edition as far as I'm aware. So we're going to bring up the Zone Mortalis terrain. It is quite blocky, as you can see here. Most of it is designed meant to be kind of walls and pillars for the 2D board. There are, of course, rules in the first Gang Warfare book, if not this book as well, that cover playing on three-dimensional terrain. But for the most part, the game is exactly the same otherwise, regardless of how you're going to play it. Now, it's been a while since I looked at the original terrain from the first game, but I don't believe that we actually had these pillars like this. My memory is that it's mostly the walls were on the board itself, and as far as drawn in, and so you mostly had doors and bulkheads, and some terrain to hide behind, not actual full pillars and actual walls. So combining the two box sets, you're definitely going to get a lot more versatility out of it, if my memory holds up. It has been quite a while since I cracked open my box of Necromunda. I would say probably since the couple months after it was released. So my memory is definitely going to be a bit faulty there. But looks like we have 2 of the same sprue right here, and then 1 unique sprue. Now, I've noticed that in the more recent 40K box sets, we didn't really have any of the blast templates, and so that was one of those things that I feel should be included in every box set if it's applicable. So if you have the chance of having somebody throw in some sort of a frag grenade or something like that, you should have a blast template for it. If you're gonna have somebody that's gonna use a flamer, you should have a blast template for it. Mostly just in case. That's my personal opinion. So those cover the terrain, it looks like. Actually, now we've got a couple more terrain sprues. Let's go ahead and bring those out. So here we have some of the bulkheads, the cover. We've also got this cool looking tentacle right here. We've got some crates with some guns in them. I definitely do not remember these being in the original release. So definitely some cool stuff there. And then these last 2 sprues are exactly the same. So we're going to go ahead and show just one of them. But it seems to be more of just the general bulkhead pieces for the towers and the walls. And then we have a total of 4 sprues for the models themselves. And it looks like, at least for the Escher, they're both exactly the same. Let's see if everything matches up. Okay, so it's basically 2 of the same sprue for each faction. So we have the House de Lock, which gives you, looks like about 5 bodies. So the 2 sprues combined would give you 10. If my quick glance is correct. Looking at the number of heads, there are exactly 10 heads per sprue, which I know personally I would end up using only the heads from 1 sprue, just so that way they all had a unique head and didn't duplicate any. Definitely a lot of cool guns, auto pistols, stubbers, definitely some cool stuff there. I love the aesthetic of the Delac. In my memory, they've changed quite a bit in their overall aesthetic from the original release way back in the 90s. And back then they were more kind of the Neo style from Matrix. The trench coats, the guns. Kind of gave you more of a dystopian spy type look, where the Escher, have always been, your Amazonian badass woman types, and I think that the sculpts for the Eschers, by far the best that they've ever done for the Eschers, and I've been a fan of the game since the beginning, so I definitely do have a little bit of experience there. Now, what I don't have experience with is remembering what all the guns are. I am terrible with remembering those guns, and a lot of times I basically build them to be what I think look cool, and then build my roster around whatever fit for my play style at the time, or whoever I was fighting. And so it wasn't so much that I was playing WYSIWYG. For those that don't know, that's what you see is what you get. But I was focusing more on what looked really cool on the models, and giving them more a unique feel, so that way not everyone so I remember that I would play, majority of people were using about the same weapons in general, and I didn't want them all to look like they were carrying the same weapons. So, I was definitely a big fan of doing some custom builds and things like that. So you'd get a lot more unique models on the playfield. But there are definitely some people out there that would be upset by that, because WYSIWYG is such a big deal in a lot of parts of the community, especially when you get to tournaments and stuff. Personally, I never played tournaments. I've only ever really played for fun. I have always wanted to play in a tournament just to experience it, but I don't see myself doing that anytime soon, more because of COVID than anything else. But time has always been a big issue for me, just because I keep some really odd hours. I mean, while I'm filming it right now, it is literally 2 in the morning on a Sunday, and so most people are not going to be up this late when I have free time. So I tend to play whenever I get time, which is very rarely, but definitely would like to have that experience at least once. I did see that Arizona Game Fair is going to be doing a tournament in 2022, assuming that we don't have any bad mutations in COVID or anything like that, and assuming that people actually get vaccinated, which proudly I am fully vaccinated. Pretty much everyone in my house that can be is fully vaccinated, except for my son, who got his first shot this week, and actually literally day before yesterday, and officially today is his birthday, so he was just barely old enough to finally get it. Now back to Hive War, we have our standard cardboard piece, or plastic or paper card, whatever you want to call it. Normally, you just get it like a big piece of art or like the logo or something. And this is more kind of like what you'd see in like a poster for the ad for the game. Now on the back side, I really like this, and I don't see this very often with Games Workshop products, and I think that I wish we saw more of this. So basically gives you a highlight of all of the main different things that are going on. We have the Book of Peril, we have Gangs of the Underhive, we have the main rulebook itself, and then it shows the main gangs here. Personally, we own Delok, obviously, Orlok, Cawdor, Goliath, and Escher. Definitely want to get started on the other 4 as soon as possible. Would love to give them a try. The Corpse Grinder cult definitely fits my general aesthetic, because they are chaos after all, and they are a chaos cult. Pretty much right away, looking at them just screams Korn to me, and Korn has always been one of my go-tos, so definitely liking to look at those guys. Definitely want to get a set of them, and the Palatine, or Palanite rather, Enforcers and Subjugators. Now we have the rulebook. It has tokens. We have, looks like, some map and assembly guide and such. We have our tactics cards, which also has our character cards. Now when it comes time to fill these out, my handwriting is absolutely atrocious. So what that means is I'm gonna have to beg either my wife or my daughter to fill these out for me, so that way that people can read them. Or I might just do it and not care, because most likely I'll end up playing by myself, or and with my son, or even maybe my father-in-law, and not big sticklers on as long as one of us can read it, we're good. Then we have a new set of Underhive dice. I believe that these are the same dice that you get with the original box set, and from what I recall, the original box set is still available. The only one that I don't believe is the one that came with the Palanites and the Corpse Grinder cults. Then we have our bases here. The diameter on these are much smaller than I remember. I want to say that these are 24 millimeter or 20 millimeter, if I'm correct. So definitely a lot smaller than most models I tend to work with, but I love the detail. I love the kind of tech or steampunkish or industrial look to them. Then So actually here is our assembly guide. So not the big full color guide like we're used to with most new box games. So that's kind of a surprise. But it is very highly detailed and shows like the main builds for the different Eschers and the lacs and such. Now, and then in the back we have basically all the different builds for the pillars and the longer walls. And then we have our ruler. Now, I've always enjoyed these rulers, especially with the clear view, so that way you can basically put them, center them on the model to measure out for where they're going, or measure from the same point each time that you're doing a movement. So that way everything stays consistent. So now we're going to go ahead and open this up. Now, anyone that is using a knife, just make sure that you always do cut away from yourself. Definitely don't want to give yourself stitches over a rulebook. Well, not give yourself stitches, but need stitches. Because most of us, like myself, are not qualified to give myself a stitch. So here are our tokens. And from what I remember, the original, the board was thicker on cardboard. I'm wondering if they went with this thinner aspect, unless my memory is completely wrong. I'm wondering if this is more to do with the shortages in the UK with cardboard. I don't know if it's the whole world's experienced shortages of cardboard, or if it's just the UK. And then we have the quick reference guides for the rules. And then our Hive War rulebook. Now, one thing you'll notice is that this does say Hive War instead of just about the rulebook. And so I don't remember the original having rules in here for all the other gangs. So those will definitely be helpful. And so it does give you some full color paint schemes for the different gangs as well. Personally, I would have wished for a hardcover rulebook, but I know that is not typical with what you're going to get for these more boxed games that we typically see. But definitely some really cool stuff here. I can't wait to get started building this. I'm really looking forward to this one. And really, any excuse to get back into playing Necromunda again is always a good excuse in my book, because it is just a fantastic game. What I love about it is more of the skirmish feel versus the full battles that you'd play with 40K or Age of Sigmar. But and that's part of why I love Warcry so much, is because Warcry, in my opinion, is essentially the Age of Sigmar equivalent of Necromunda, which there are even some rules that would allow you to take in some other gangs and cults and things like that. I do expect that we will probably see a Ratskin gang eventually, or at the very least more Ratskins that can be used as bounty hunters and things like that. I'm definitely hoping that we get to see a Redemptionist box set as well. I know that there's been some artwork. I don't know that we've seen some models yet, or at least not officially. But the Redemptionists were also another one of my favorites, just because of their fire aesthetic. I've always been a big fan of that as well. So definitely some things to look out for, and hopefully we see coming up. And can't wait to start building this and get playing some more Necromunda. Like I said, next week we are going to be doing a predominantly all vampire episode. Basically looking forward to the Soul Blight Gravelords, and can't wait to get started with them. Now, I have not opened the book. I have not opened the box of Blood Knights yet. We're going to do that together in the next episode. So definitely look forward to that. But I do know that a lot of other sites have already started sharing some of the rules and some of the teasers from the book as well. So, you know, those are out there, so you can definitely take a look and get some ideas for what you want to do. But I know that aesthetically, I am leaning more towards the, I believe they're called the Vikros, basically the wolf kind of monster themes. Or actually the wolf theme, and then there's the monster theme, so two different things. So I'm thinking maybe, you know, kind of doing an aesthetic that fits with both and basically getting the leaders from both, so that way, you know, depending on which mood I'm in, I can field which one I want. Just because I love the looks of those models. I'm surprised that the new pre-order does not include the Radikar model that we saw. I'm hoping that that's going to be part of an expansion for Cursed City. I've heard nothing either way on that, so I can't speak to if there's anything true about that. But thank you to Games Workshop for sharing this with us. Really do appreciate all they've done for us and all their support for the show. And I will catch you all next week. Thanks for watching. Good night.